partner in crime and general troublemaker, Eric. Say hello, Eric.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show.
And we've got a special little treat for you today where, as you know, we did an interview with Jeremy Jack, my cousin, who is in the process of running his Kickstarter for his tabletop RPG, Planetbound, which is a really cool game. I encourage you to go check it out. We'll throw a link to the Kickstarter in the description of the video and maybe on the end if I decide to do it on the end. Either way, you'll be able to click a button and get to the Kickstarter, no matter what. But without further ado, let me introduce you to what is known in Planetbound as the Master Fellows. Right here, we have Kirk Smith, we have Travis Story. Going to be biased there again because that is family as well. We've got the creator and mastermind looking 70 years younger with his facial hair shaved, Jeremy Jack. And on the bottom, at least on my screen, we have Paul Luna. Say hello, fellas.
Hello. Hey guys, fellas.
Welcome, guys.
And they are the Master Fellows. So what we thought we'd do tonight is, because Jer has set the game up as such a wonderful opportunity to tell a story, is we wanted to just pick your guys' brains about the stories that you guys have been telling for 30 years as you have played through Planetbound. And I don't care where we began. I don't care what stories you tell. I've got some. I will say this: it is a G-rated show. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. It is a G-rated show, but because kids are the future of gaming. If we don't let them play, video games don't say no. That's all I got to say. Anyway, but I'm actually excited to hear some of these stories, because I know in my tabletop role-playing experience, I can sit around for hours to this day talking about games that I've already played. So let's start. We're going to mix it up. Let's start with you, Paul, because you're that odd man out with a white shirt on. Tell us about your shirt first.
Story. See, I can tell you this. When we first started, I think my first character was a robot character, and I could not get the concept of a robot character that had personality. And I kept playing this poor thing so blocky, and we like, that does not compute. It's some just crazy lines like that he had to deal with me. He kept telling me the whole time, he's like, you just have personality. And I was like, but I'm a robot. And we just totally discussed it. Do you remember that, Jeremy, at all?
Yes, I have my own story about this character.
Clearly, we're going to be making a run with this particular one. Just so you know, Paul, I don't know if you were looking, but everyone's eyes got really big when you mentioned the robot.
We have referenced this character multiple times over the last 48 hours, and I'm not kidding. So I can't wait to see where this is going to go.
What do you remember about it, Jeremy?
Don't keep telling your story. What do you? So how did you?
The funny is, I don't remember about it. I just remember how much frustration I brought to you in the game. He was trying to tell this story, and I remember just blowing the building. But then we had attacked some facility, and I don't remember exactly why, but I came up with some super elaborate way in which I was trying to go blow this building up, and I was going through the sewers, out. So
we might need one of you other guys.
It's like, you could try.
We might need one of you other guys to share some of that story. We lost a lot of you there, Paul.
I remember the part.
You're breaking up.
Yeah, you're breaking up pretty good, Paul. It's because of the white shirt. You have the original and the original campaign shirt. We have the new campaign shirt.
It's out of date.
Out of date.
Right.
Blink so we know that you're live.
He forgot to update his shirt before. That's why.
I know.
All right. So, Jared, run us a little bit down what he's talking about.
What I remember about this character is, yes, he was playing it so stiff, and I kept telling him, it's a droid character, but it's not like it doesn't have a personality. You can play with personality. You can play with, and he could not. It was always in this, exactly what he's saying. Does not compute. I don't understand. I'm going to do this is acceptable. And that became the catchphrase of this character, because at one point the other characters had gotten this character. This character was up against them at one point until he joined the party. So they got the character in their sights, meaning they were in a ship. He was in front of the ship. They had all their guns on the ship, and they're telling him that he's got to do this, that, and the other thing. And this robot, because he's playing in this character, goes, "That is acceptable." There is no "that is acceptable." You have all these guns on you. They're about to blow you out of the sky, because he was actually floating at the time. They were using powers to have him floating in the sky. They're about to blow you out of the sky. Duh. Because he was playing in this robot character, that is acceptable. And "that is acceptable" became the catchphrase for this character. We used it all weekend. Yes, that is acceptable. I know, like, you're right, we played in the sewers and stuff like that, but that character was last.
I suspect that phrase has probably popped up for a few other characters as well, just to kind of take a jab at poor Paul in his white shirt.
Right. Yes. Well, speaking of the white shirt, Paul, show it. Paul has the original. The original campaign of Planetbound lasted from 1990 till 2004, and Paul made those shirts in Microsoft Word in 2004.
Oh man!
For the end of that campaign, everything is bound to end. It says on the back, "Fella Campaign 2004." So we made new shirts because this last weekend or this weekend that these four fellas. The master.
There you go. Up a little,
Paul.
That's it.
There it is.
That's it.
There it is. Very nice. That's a very good Microsoft Word shirt right there.
Right?
Yeah.
That is very
It's a collector's item.
That explains why it's white, right?
Yeah.
It's in Word.
Wow, you called that one spot on, man.
All right, so Trav, I want to ask you. Tell me something. One of your favorite moments in the game. Happy, sad, I don't care what the emotion was. All-time favorite moment, if you have only one.
Okay, if I were to narrow it down to only one, it would be man. So we had these characters that we had been playing for a number of years now, because you have to understand that me and Cap and Paul and some of our other friends from Southern California were regular gamers. So we were playing, we played a lot of Palladium stuff regularly. We're huge Rifts fans, Heroes fans, Nightbane, all of that.
Yeah.
But we started playing Planetbound with Jared, but because of the distance between us, almost near 400 miles, him being up here in Northern California and us being in Southern California, it wasn't often that we got to get together. So they were on these really special occasions when we did, and they were always fantastic. So this particular group of characters, I think we'd been playing them for a number of years already, just over the course of coming up and him coming down and just Planetbound whenever we could. So there was this one time in particular where over the course of this whole story arc, we had taken the notion that we were going to go into the Empire, pretty much the biggest, baddest nation in the world. We were going to sneak in there and we were going to take the Emperor out because we had beef with him and he had beef with us, and that's what was going down. So
imagine, by the way, Jeremy's bedroom, right, with I don't know, half a dozen of us in there, and all night the windows are fogged up. It smelled like Guy. It was
and barbecue chips.
Yeah, no joke. Yeah, it was soda and chips and all of that stuff and pizza and whatever, and we're all just piled in, and it was the kind of thing where you'd literally play till 3-4 in the morning and just fall over when you were exhausted and sleep. It was that kind of environment. I'll never forget that. That was amazing.
And as that mission unfolded, we're infiltrating this fortress and executing this massive plan that we had put together and
Hideously
stuff. So
complex.
it got down to the point where the apex of the adventure was my character in the throne room with the Emperor. The Emperor was, he was this just incredible, power and had all of these abilities and stuff. And I was horribly outgunned. And I had this talisman, essentially, this magic item that had given my character power, or I could have hung with the Emperor.
Yeah. But
But this thing was having a negative impact on me. So over the course of the adventure, I destroyed it. But I went in there anyways, completely outgunned, going, well, whatever, we're here. So,
Well, with all the trouble to make the plan, we may as well follow through with
might
it.
as well follow through. Yeah. So here I am getting ready to just get completely smashed by this Emperor, my character rather. And during the whole exchange, Jeremy was the game master. I'm the character. The setting is just as Cap described it in real life, right? From this dark throne room. Well, the time of evening that it was when we were playing and everything, it was actually dark and shady in Jared's room. And man, when that whole exchange was going on, the dialogue between the Emperor, and Jeremy playing that role and my character, it wasn't Jeremy and Travis, like it was these characters. It was
Yeah.
that first time that it was that immersive, and it was scary. Like I remember like, feeling scared because I was like, man, this had all these years invested in this character, and we come to this point where it's like,
yeah.
folks, and this emperor's there, and we're having this exchange, and he starts putting his hand out at me and starts using his powers, and I was like, oh, here we go.
Well, remember that he had they were equals in that they both had a magical type talisman that made, but he had destroyed his because he didn't want the negative effects. Well, the emperor still had his, and so shows it to him, out like this, and is taunting him with the power that he has, and that he's going to just wreck it.
So, in my desperation, I tell the game master, all right, take out my bladed lightsaber-like weapon, take his hand, cut his hand off, take his hand. Well, I'll be danged if I don't throw a 20. Guess what? There goes the emperor's hand, boy, and as soon as that talisman's gone, the talisman had become so powerful, he was essentially possessed by this thing. It was another personality running the body of this emperor, right? Well, the talisman's gone. He's lost connection to it. He just turns into a shivering mass of whatever he was before, absolutely terrified. And it's like, we just won. Just beat the emperor. Yeah, it was crazy.
You can imagine the rest of us
crazy.
sitting there, like eyes agog, trying to pick our jaws up off the floor. It was just like what just happened?
It was
like,
it was
like,
unreal.
what was that? Like,
and they that 20-sided dice that we threw, I still have that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing.
Yeah, I would save that one.
That bad boy in
the
Amber.
black one, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Destructo, right?
Yeah,
And-
the
and
That
for-
black 20-sided dice. Whenever that came out, that rolled almost always consistently just when we needed it.
Right, just when we needed it, right? That was that dice. And what was interesting for me as the GM in that, as I'm doing it, I'm thinking, how are they going to? I know that these players are really good players. They're gifted players. They're gonna come up with something. It's gonna be incredible. They've already come up with this great plan. They had people in place. Everything came down to this conversation between Trav's character and this horrid bad guy, and he's taunting him and doing this. And Trav, he diminished the way he said it. This is Trav. He goes, take his hand off. I mean, he was just like, yeah, he goes, take his hand off. And I was like, say again. And he's like, hand off. Called shot, hand gone. Take that talisman right out of his hand, take his hand off. And I'm like, I mean, I'm thinking in my head, he's dead. I mean, and the whole campaign is going to go to hell. It's going to be this huge firefight. Who knows what's going to happen? I said, roll for it. And he just, boop. And that 20 came up. Everybody. It was not just John.
We lost
We're
it.
just like, what?
Yeah. The wind got sucked right out of the room.
I know,
It
right?
was incredible.
And for them to just take down this entire fortress and this great, this
I'm
huge-
sure right before he rolled that 20, you're going, how am I going to save these characters? Because they just,
Yeah, that's what you're going.
they just killed themselves. What am I going to do?
How am I gonna get them out of this? And I'm a GM that is okay with characters dying. I'm like, okay, Trav, are we prepared to just go down and take all the damage that you're gonna take and see if you survive that? We'll just see. What's great is that the reason that we call this group the Master Fellas is that there was 5 fellas that made up the main characters of the bigger story arc of Planetbound. It was Trav's character that he's talking about, Tumok. It was Kirk's character, Keldar. You can tell some Keldar stories, I'm sure. Paul's character, Terramark. My character that I played as an NPC, Talon, and a buddy of ours, Drew, who played a guy named Tane. These 5 characters ended up really being the mainstay of the story because they played these characters for years and years and years and became so tied to these characters. It was the first time that I ever saw such a true story arc that by the end, it was actually before the Fella campaign in 2004 that they retired those characters. In this epic way. I won't give the secret to what they did when they retired the characters. They might give you secrets about Planetbound that we're not going to talk about right now.
But it was funny, like just as a point of reference for kind of the longevity of the character, right? Like, so when that battle with the Emperor had gone down, Bill, Matt, you're familiar with the Palladium system, right? So level 15 is about the max. So about that time we went to fight the Emperor. I think I was hanging around level 6 or 7.
Somewhere around there.
Wasn't that high yet? I mean, all
We
things
weren't supposed to be there.
we were supposed to be there, yeah. Totally punching out of my weight class. But when the character, because he had grown up there in the Empire essentially, and had worked as a member of this empire, and had snuck out like on the belly of like a great lizard thing that they had been like literally like snuck out of that place on the belly of an animal and came back and like collapsed it like 6 levels later. Like
Literally.
that was pretty rad.
Physically, like that was the other fun part, was trying to escape as the entire
That was right. That was a
coming
great escape.
down.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Their plan had worked out to actually take this entire massive fortress down. So the other characters are implementing that.
Yeah.
So then they did, after Travis wrecks the Emperor,
They're like, oh, detonate.
and they and then they had an escape. There was this whole escape part of the campaign to get out of there as this thing was collapsing around.
Well, look, I'm gonna get into your mind as the storyteller, Jer, and I know that was a little bit of vengeance on them for taking out. You were like, "Fine, you want to kill my boss with one roll, then you have to get out before."
That's right. Let's just see what you can do.
You at least wanted a fight, but you just killed him
right away. Those characters, these 5 characters are represented. They're NPCs in this iteration of Planetbound. There's a lot of those original games that were played that we're talking about over the last 30 years. All of them, in some way, shape, or form, are reflected in the current iteration of Planetbound.
Well, I think that's one of the things that makes it interesting, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk about the stories, because it was you telling these stories with all these guys that created the concept of, hey, this needs to be something other people can participate in. This needs to be something that people can tell their own stories in. And you didn't have to go through the process of basically one day deciding you were going to write a game and then create all of these background characters, because you had all of this wonderful input from all of these other people creating genuinely different characters.
Yes.
Because the truth is, most of the time when people are role players, there's certain tendencies that always show up in their characters. And then that's just because that's who we are. But you had the luxury of adding these characters to your background with all of these different nuances to them. And I think that's one of the things that is going to help people really enjoy the story aspect of it.
I totally agree, and it's the reason why the opening line of the book is Planetbound is so much more than just me, because this game, yes, it was my 14-year-old mind that came up with it, but the entirety of everything in this game involves hundreds of people. The acknowledgments is in the beginning of the book is 2 pages long. Usually people have dedicated to, and it's a 1 line. The acknowledgments are 2 pages of the beginning of the book.
Right. And that's great that you did that too. So they already dropped some stuff about Keldar. So I think you've kind of been called out on the carpet here, because I mean, Jerry rubbed his hands when I said that. So there must be something good coming.
He's not got to be my favorite character that I think I've ever played. Like in any game, in any iteration of anything. Like,
did you see Paul's face? You're gonna talk about Keldar all the time.
Yeah. No, I love him to death. Well, part of it was that he started out as one thing. He started out as like a spy, and without me really thinking about it or knowing about it, he transitioned into more of a knight, like Crusader character. And so like his evolution was like that. But if I was going to talk about like one thing about him that always sticks with me, it's really the Judica. It's the rings. So I always cite this if anybody asks, or if I talk about it, I talk about the fact, like, when you get into your character and you start, you become your character, right? And so like so often you're playing, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you're playing and you're going, okay, like how would this guy react to the circumstances, right? But when you're really getting into gaming, when you're really playing the character, if you get in that zone and you start just reacting as the character, and you're not thinking about it and you're not second guessing. I fall into that a lot when I play. I'll second guess things and I'll be thinking about like, oh, what about this and what about that? And make sure I don't use player knowledge and that kind of nonsense. But it's just like, okay, cool. But this was like the first time I think that I ever played where I really was so in tune with my character, because we this whole group, the same group that we were just talking about, like one of the things we had to do, we go to this ancient city of Judica, and there's these rings in a square of just a square. It's an abandoned ancient city, and each one of us had to pass through these rings, and each one of us had a totally different experience. We're seeing it play out. Like, okay, he's working with Trav as Trav goes through. He's working with Drew or Paul. Like everybody went through and had something else. But Keldar, his thing was like it wound up being like his mentor, his sage character was like, you know, you're unworthy, you're not. And it was one of those things where he started attacking Keldar. And like, if I hadn't been in the zone and I hadn't been reacting as him, I don't know what I would have done. But as it was, it's like he starts attacking me, and like the only thing I was like, I'm just defensive. Like, I'm defending myself, but I'm not striking back. I'm not attacking my mentor. I'm not, you know, and the way that I did it, it was so like, I goosebumps talking about it now, because it was just like, it was so in that zone and I can remember it. And it was really, really critical and such an amazing experience of gaming and being in that place, that if and then I find out afterward, you know, if I had reacted in almost any other way, if any number of things I could have done, that he could have done, see, I'm doing it right now. Like he, you know, he probably would have been killed. He wouldn't have made it through the experience, but literally because I had done it in that way, and because it was so immersive and it was so specific, it was just an unbelievable, incredible experience of gaming. And that's why I really get into that character. Really kind of took over in a large way and is a great example of me personally, like my gaming experience.
It's a great example that the story that you're telling is a great example of, if you stay true and consistent with playing with your character, whatever that is, and no matter what, just wait for the outcome. Because the GM, and me as a GM, I'll speak for myself. Me as a GM, I will make sure that if you're playing in character, that things are going to work out according to you playing in character.
Yeah.
Good to the good or the bad, but always into the end, something that is fulfilling to the character. And in this case, it was a true test. He went into this thing as a test. He didn't know that wasn't really his mentor. His mentor now shows up to him. His mentor starts attacking him, telling him how unworthy he is. And he stayed true to the character of, you are my mentor. You've taught me I am not going to fight you. And he stayed in that. Whereas if he thought of anything else, like, I got to defeat this guy. What are you telling me I'm not worthy? I'm going to show you how worthy I am now. But the character, Keldar as a character, would never have done that. He was begging his master and telling him, no, I won't harm you. And the guy's beating him down to the point where he's going to kill him. And he still accepted, no, this is my character. This is who I am. He stayed in the character. And then, of course, he passed the test that wasn't actually his mentor and what was going on.
Good job, Keldar, passing the test. I'm proud of you. You know, it probably happened like 25 years ago. I'm still proud of you.
Hey, like I said, when I talk about it, that's why Paul gives me a hard time. We give each other a hard time. It's the most fun, but it's like, yeah, I mean, when that comes up, if I'm talking about like my favorite characters I played, like obviously, like, you know, Keldar's my guy. I'm so super excited. I mean, I'm excited. That's why that's not why, but I ordered my copy of the book so that I could get my custom art and the cover. Right. And at least twice, right, Jared? I've been like, hey, at least twice. I've been like, is it possible to make sure that mine has Keldar in it, like the current representation of him? You know,
I don't know, Jared. I almost think it'd be worth it to send him 2 copies, one after the other, and the first one doesn't have it in there. It has something else.
You gave away my thing.
Ruin it.
Or you can send me the copy with Keldar in it, and I'll do an unboxing, and I'll be like,
Hey.
I hate all of you.
I'll be happy to do that for you and help out. Oh, I'm not avoiding you, but I'm gonna throw some questions at you again. We had a little bit of internet connectivity problems. Hopefully that's straightened out a little bit. But tell us a little bit more about one of your favorite times in the game, if we can hear you.
Are you talking to me this time?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I just want to make sure. No, actually, the same mission, right before Cap brought it on up, I was already thinking about that mission. That was probably an integral mission. I had a character, Telemark, sorry. I haven't played him for a while.
It is attached to his
So,
character.
yeah, wasn't quite as attached. That character was, I'm trying to think, he had connection to the Nova. Like, that's right, Jeremy, right? The Nova is what he would have connection to.
So, I mean, we were using other IPs that were mixed up in Planetbound, which of course players can do even now because the whole thing is sci-fi, so they can stick whatever they want to. We talked about that on Planet. So at that time, you guys were Force users.
Yeah, so I was using the Nova. My character was very dependent upon using the Nova, and I mean, I was always trying to game the system and use the 20-sided dice. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna cut that person off from the Nova so they couldn't use it. And goodness gracious, poor Jeremy had to deal with me when I was younger so much. And every other game, you know, I'm like, cut that person off from the Nova. And then he's like, the chances of doing that are super slim. I'm like, well, roll it. What do I have to lose? Well, finally, it ended up backfiring for me. But like I suddenly didn't have access to Nova. In that mission, that campaign, we had to go through these rings, and then suddenly my character, he had a combat with somebody else, fight with somebody else, and I could not beat them no matter how much I was trying to use the Nova. And I was trying to access it, and this guy was just beating me up. And my character had to come to the realization that he didn't need to be dependent upon the Nova. That is an extension and it's a tool, but he needed to be dependent upon himself to be able to beat this other individual. And that was a big deal for my character's development, to realize that he was more than just having these powers, which were cool. He didn't have to depend upon that. And that was definitely a story arc for him, and a change to the character after that, because once he became aware of that, he became more confident in himself and just a growth.
I was definitely one of those learn your lesson GMs.
Well, I think that's a good sign of a good storyteller too, is we make our characters and we have this concept originally in our minds, but we got to remember whatever system you're using, your first level. So basically your character, depending on what genre you're playing, he's picking up his battle axe, trying to figure out which end is the sharp end. And that's where they're essentially starting at. And that not only do they grow in level, but the characters themselves develop and change. So I got a question in regards to that. When someone is sitting down to tell a story for you guys, and I know you're going to stroke Jer's ego on this one, and that's okay. This could be a Jer stroke.
No.
He's looking pretty silky smooth there, you know. So, but what is it about a game, a storyteller in particular, that is going to attract you to a game? Not necessarily the game itself, because Planetbound, I've read through it. I haven't had the privilege of playing it. When you guys come out, you'll need to fix that for me. But I haven't had the luxury of playing it, but I have played role-playing games since I was 11. And we won't say how old I am now, but I've been playing longer than 30 years. But the system never really mattered as much as the story did. So what is it about a storyteller, a GM, that attracts you to a game? Who wants to go first?
Trav is a game master himself, if you don't mind me saying so.
Absolutely not. You can praise my family. Go ahead. Don't stop. Keep going. Keep going.
On par every bit as much. Yeah, and I'll be curious what your answer to that is.
Man, as a storyteller, just somebody that is truly, I guess off the bat, is like really engaging, and however that engagement is, or whatever that hook tends to be for that individual GM, I don't think it really matters, but it's got to be that. So Jeremy's really, really good with his, just when his NPCs are fantastic, because Jared's got this incredible voice talent, right? Where he will voice these characters, and he will jump into these NPCs like nobody I've ever seen, and go from one to the other. It's creepy, but it's so good. That's the way Jared always hooks me, is just the engagement. And when he kicks off missions, it's fantastic. You know, I've played with a lot of other people, and I'm not knocking their style, but Jeremy's one of my favorite times of gaming a character. I had, rolled up this mercenary type of character and everything, and we had literally we just rolled up this character. I think I was the last one to go. We had a couple guys there, but he was going to bring me into the thing. Just finished rolling, writing down the last piece of equipment. He's like, okay, cool. You're on your speeder bike and you got 4 dudes there coming on you. What are you doing? Wait, what? I mean, it was that fast and that engaging, and you are right there in the story, and you better think on your feet, and you better do something quick, because it's on. I love that. That engagement, and then just getting so deep into these NPCs and just really activating the world like that. That was always huge to me. Jeremy's one of my all-time favorite GMs of everybody I played with. He's so good at that hook, man. Just setting that hook so quick, and If a GM can develop that, and it doesn't have to be in that particular manner, man, but as a game master, if you can set that hook early like that, it's awesome.
Were you going to say that, Paul?
So last night we
Jared just,
played.
Yes, yeah.
Jared
Yeah,
just
last night you
last
did
night.
that to me. So I
You just did
they're
that.
in the middle of a mission. I'm pulled up a character, and I'm staying away from my opportunity. And I'm waiting for the part where he kind of fills me in the background. He's like, "Okay, you're in like this underground cave, and you see some explosions in front of you. What are you talking about? Like, what's going on? Why am I down here?" He's like, "You don't need to know that right now. There's just this explosion." Okay.
Throws you right in.
This is literally less than 24 hours ago.
Yeah. I go, Paul, we're going to backstory this in a second. What's happening right now is this, that, this, that. What are you doing?
It's like, I don't know who I am, man.
Right now, I'm panicking a lot. All right, what about you, Kirk? You threw it on Trav there right away. That was your answer. I'm gonna come back to
I'll
you.
throw them under the bus. We've all look. We've all GM some. I don't think it's. I don't think it's one of my stronger suits. But thank you.
Yeah.
But it's. I mean, I don't know. For me, it's a lot about listening, and it's a lot about setting up the story, setting up the scenario. Okay, so what I kind of learned, and I don't know that I ever got as good at this as I wanted to be, but what I discovered when I was GMing was that for me, it was more about setting a tone and a situation, a set of circumstances. Mm-hmm. And if I knew where they were and what was happening in there, like what they were going to have to contend with, then the best thing I could do was just give them the rope and let them just decide how they were going to interact with that. But the moment, and I did this in some games, Jeremy will remember this, the samurai he played was one example of when I had an idea of what I thought should happen and what I wanted to happen. Yeah. And I've not spent way too much time trying to make it happen, but I was holding on too tight. Instead of just presenting a situation and allowing them to explore that situation the way they wanted to. One of the things, I mean, Jared's amazing at this, so is Trav and Paul for that matter, but like listening to the players, seeing who the characters are and who the characters are going to be. And it's the same thing just with what we've been doing the last couple of days. You know, I had an idea of what the character might be when we rolled them up, you know, and then the interactions with him as the GM, the interactions with, you know, him as a player and Paul, like it brings things out. And I think the most important thing you can do as a GM is understand that it's so fluid. Like you can't assume that things are a particular way. You can't force them to be a particular way. And you have to really listen and be aware of what's happening in the situation and how they're interacting with each other to drive it forward and then adjust accordingly. I mean, role-playing is a lot like acting, right? And it's like acting is reacting and listening, right? And if you're not listening, then, you know, you can't do anything. And every bad mistake I've made as a GM has come from trying to over-control what's happening. But it's terrifying too, because you're like, well, what, I don't know, like, oh crap, he just did what now? Like, what am I going to do to that? So to be able to react to Kuma cutting off the Emperor's hand when that's not something you ever saw coming, and then in a moment, like in a flash, be able to spin it into some entirely other story that you didn't know about 10 seconds beforehand, like
dropping a building on the party.
Right? Exactly. Well, every great GM is trying to kill their characters. Can we agree that at least? Like, wow. I mean, hopefully unsuccessfully most of the time, but all great GMs want to kill their characters to some level.
Eric, hold on. I got a hardball question for you, Jer. So you got to hold on. Eric, I'm going to make you answer this one too. What is it about a game in a story arc? What is it about a storyteller that attracts you to the game?
For me, what attracts me to the game?
No. I got a hardball one for you. You
You want me to answer this, huh?
I want you to answer this one.
All right.
This is all leading up to the hardball question.
Got it.
Well, I think a lot of times it's how the story itself will change a player's character through just natural evolution. You know, it simulates real life in a way. You know, we learn from experiences and we change. And I think that's the attractive part about role playing, especially when you get really deep into your character, like you're saying, Kurt, and you're not thinking as a player, okay, how would this character, you're just instinctively becoming that character. And so you're naturally going to evolve based on what the story is. And I think that's the cool part about all of this type of stuff.
Paul, did you get a chance to answer that? I can't remember if you jumped in there with Kirk or not.
No, but I could tell you, I'll try to go fast. So I played a game with a totally different GM character, and he just never got the character. He just never got what I was trying to do. And, this character was not necessarily wanting to be a warrior. He find it, unnecessary battle was not something he was wanting to get involved in. And eventually, I forget what happened in this game. I get to the end, and I take my sword and I break it. I'm like, okay, I'm done. The GM goes, okay, so you broke the sword because someday you're going to come back, rebuild it, and fight again. And I thought, oh, did I just lose internet? But it said, I was like, you didn't get the character at all. That was not what the direction of the character. But Jeremy's had a good instinct on being able to pick up and say, okay, this is the character. This is where he's kind of going. This is who he is. The motivates. He understands that he's a player as well. And I think that's really important because you have really great mythology. You can have really great story. But if you don't understand the characters, then the game will never really progress. It'll never feel like a real event because it's these cardboard cutout characters in this elaborate world. So it's almost a CGI characters. They got to be more than that.
Right. I do think it's funny that you broke your sword and said, "Did I just lose internet?" That's just weird. And
well, on my screen,
I'm not sure if you have internet on the sword, but that's an interesting character. So, Jared, my question for you is this: this is about Planetbound. So this was a setup.
Okay.
So what is it, and why is Planetbound the vehicle for all of this stuff? Because we heard pretty much the same thing from everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a story. And there's games out there, I'm not going to mention any ones that are just like Paul just said. You're basically playing a cardboard cutout, and you're playing a board game, essentially. Not faulting that. There's some great games that are like that. But when you're really looking to play a role-playing game, you are looking to do precisely that. You are looking to immerse yourself in whatever it is you're becoming. And why is Planetbound the vehicle for that?
So the big answer, the big picture answer to that question is that Planetbound is not the hero. Planetbound is a great story. It's a great setting. It's an amazing premise. You have all the things there, but it's not the hero. The GM's not the hero. That's what makes a great GM. They are not the hero. The players of the game, whatever said game you're talking about, and in Planetbound, this is so emphasized in the philosophy for how to play the game, the players are the hero. It is their journey through the setting that you've provided. So Planetbound, yes, great, amazing setting. Yes, great, amazing. You have a story. And so it's world built to the nth degree. And I can go on and on about how amazing Planetbound is. Planetbound's not the hero. You're the hero.
Right.
So create your hero and then play in this scenario, play in this arena. And Kirk hit it on the head when he talked about, it being controlled and contrived. Paul said, as soon as a GM you tell the player he breaks his sword and goes, that's because you're going to do this and this and this and this. You've just told me what the character is going to do. The GM instantly becomes the hero.
Right.
It's not about the GM. It's this couple days that we've been playing this brand new campaign within this iteration of Planetbound. This has nothing to do with Planetbound or Jeremy Jack. We're creating great. In fact, Planetbound is an amazing story because of what we were just talking about. Every single one of these heroes' journeys all overlapped each other over 30 years. That's what built the world. That's what made it amazing, not the world itself. Planetbound, yeah, great premise. And you build based on the characters and their heroes' journeys. That's what makes it amazing. If you try to set yourself up as a hero, and I could call out half a dozen from the big companies that are producing role-playing games to even indie games, if you're setting yourself up as the creator, as the hero of the story, it's just you won't get the buy-in. They're the hero. You get to be the sage. That's what makes a great GM, is the sage role. There's a victim, villain, hero and sage in every story, right? We create the victims and villains as NPCs. The GM gets to be the sage, and the players get to be the heroes.
And what you're trying to accomplish with this game, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm reaching a little bit here, is you want people to create those same stories with different characters and overlap all of those other characters that you've already created. So your next group of 5 people that is backing the Kickstarter, you are wanting them to create their own stories, their own interview, just like this, of what happened in Planet.
They will create their own. Planetbound will be so theirs. It'll be their own thing. There's so much fodder, for lack of better words, on Planetbound for them to do and create whatever it is that they choose to create. The 3 characters that we just rolled up in this iteration of Planetbound, we've been doing playtest after playtest after playtest this weekend. These 3 characters, I'm sure, will become something epic in the game and fold into the story. Players will be able to do this for themselves with their own communities and in the larger community of the fellas. It'll just keep building on itself. It can't not. It's designed that way.
Right. Well, I'm super excited for everything. Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
I was going to say, can I add something that Jeremy has done, and that I think is important for a GM to know this, is that Jeremy's been willing to sacrifice what you would consider a critical character that you would never be, for example, the Emperor. Nobody thought the Emperor would ever die. We always thought he was going to be part of the game. And so he was willing to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to sacrifice this character because this is where the story is going. And we're going to change things and we're going to adjust. And I don't know what that's going to look like in the next game. I don't even know what the future is going to look like. But that's important for a GM to have the ability to relinquish what's in the book. It's kind of a guide. It's not a god. And so to use that, but then realize, make it your own world.
Right. All right, guys. I got one last very important question. First of all, thanks so much for sitting down, because now I'm excited to play Planetbound. I got to wait until you guys come visit your parents at the same time. I don't know when. You guys are going to have to plan something particular. Family reunion is over Thanksgiving. I'm just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there.
We have a big birthday in the family come January that I've been thinking that might be a good time for everyone to get together.
Okay, I'm game for that. For that. But this is an important question, and I think that your play testing will hinge on the answer to this question. Trav, are you using that black 20-sided again?
Yes, I am.
Yes, he
is. All right.
So is in effect.
I think that no matter what, then this is going to be a successful play test regardless, just because of that black D20.
The other fun thing that about this play test too is getting Paul in. Now where we are with the Zoom call and stuff, like we're actually also checking on the viability of being able to do it this way. Right. And so far it's been so great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you very much. I'm super excited that you guys came on and shared the stories. I haven't been feeling good all weekend, and you guys have made me laugh, and that makes everybody feel better. Laughter is the best medicine, because that's some great stories, and I got to see family members, which is always a plus. But I'm super excited about Planetbound. I'm super excited to get my hand-drawn, pre-ordered copy, because, as soon as I saw that Jared was putting the game out, I knew it was time. Eric got one too. With my picture of Keldar in the front.
That's right.
But again, thank you guys so much for joining us. For you guys out there in listening land, go check out the Planetbound Kickstarter. The last thing I want to say about the Kickstarter is this. There's a really big stretch goal, and I am completely disassociated with this part of the world because it doesn't impact me, but I think that this is the single coolest thing that Planetbound is trying to do, and that's the American Sign Language version. That's all correct, right, Jer?
The ASL edition.
The ASL version of the game, to make it available to hearing impaired and deaf people. And I think that would be absolutely amazing. So even if you're not interested in the tabletop role-playing game itself, it's a great project to back. This would be the first one to do that. And I think that that's a really cool way to reach out and to include other people that maybe haven't had the opportunity to enjoy role-playing the way that we have. So check out the Kickstarter. I'll throw links up in the description. And Eric, you want to take us out?
Yeah, so just to let everybody know, as of our recording, this is September 20th. There's 19 days left to go check out the Kickstarter. So you guys got some time left. They're getting close to the first stretch goal, which is the soundtrack. so you guys can have some background music in your games. But check it out. We'll have links in the show. And thanks for joining us on the show, guys, and telling us your story. That's the cool thing about any role-playing game, is these stories and memories you guys can create. And you guys out there listening and watching, be sure to check out the rest of our podcasts. You can find them on Podbean, Google Play, iTunes, and a ton of other podcast ones there. I don't have the list. Mac usually reads that list out. But also check us out on the YouTubes. We post on Coastal Con, our sponsor, which is coming up in February. And if you guys have any questions or comments for us, always feel free to email us at our Gmail account at indi-Invasion@gmail.com. And the biggest thing to remember when you're out there rolling up some new characters because he just got killed is to prepare for the invasion. Thanks, guys, for watching.
Hey, guys.